Al-24 News, Midnight News, streaming live from the capital Algiers. And coming up next in our news program. Algerian Foreign Minister Mr. Ramtan Al-Mamra took over the rotating presidency of the 31st Arab Summit from his Tunisian counterpart Uthman Al-Jarandi at the Arab Council of Ministers. President of the Arab Parliament as well as the Arab foreign ministers expressed their great confidence in Algeria's ability to ensure that activities of the Arab Summit fulfill the hopes and aspirations of the Arab peoples. 2 car bombs exploded Saturday at a busy junction in Somalia's capital, leaving scores of civilian casualties, including children. Russia's defense ministry claimed that British Navy blew up the Nord Stream gas pipeline. Last month, a claim that London said it was false and designed to distract from Russian military failures in Ukraine. Starting from Algeria, the proceeding of the foreign ministers' meeting in preparation for the 31st Arab Summit began today afternoon in Algiers. The first day of the meeting of the Arab foreign ministers held at Abdellatif Rahal International Conference Center is devoted to adaptation of the draft agenda, the review of draft decisions, and the approval and consultation sessions is scheduled for the second day.
The fight against extremism and terrorism is one of the most significant challenges facing the Arab nation, and one that demands the most resources. We are urged to step up our efforts and adopt an exclusive strategy, which calls for coordinated efforts.
Libyan Foreign Minister Najla Al-Mangoush spoke at the end of the first day of the preparatory meeting for the 31st Arab Summit, and here it is what she said.
We agreed that we will finalize the discussions tomorrow, God willing. We will resume the discussions in the preparatory meeting of the summit at midday. The most important files are the files of the Palestinian question, the positive events concerning Yemen, and the positive developments concerning Libya. The decision of the Security Council was a very positive one and calls on ending the transitional periods to prepare for elections. So all these will be included in the final communiqué.
Algerian Foreign Minister Mr. Ramtan Al-Mamra said that the Palestinian issue was at its most difficult stage after the occupier continued to impose a de facto policy. In his speech following Algeria's assumption of the presidency of the Council of the Arab Ministers, Al-Mamra saluted the Palestinians for their involvement in Algiers' agreement sponsored by President Abdelmajid Tebboune to reunite Palestinian factions.
We must not forget the concerns and issues of our Arab nation. We warmly salute the Palestinian brothers for their involvement in the reconciliation initiative launched by President Abdelmajid Tebboune earlier this year in coordination with his brother, President Mahmoud Abbas Abu Mazen, which resulted in the signing of the Algiers Declaration emanating from the Reunification Conference and attaining Palestinian national unity that was achieved on October 13th.
Also, Algerian Foreign Minister Mr. Ramtan Al-Mamra stressed the need to respect states' sovereignty and non-interference in their internal affairs and to preserve their territorial integrity.
The difficult situation that our brothers are experiencing in Libya, Syria, Yemen and Somalia, as well as in Lebanon and the Sudan, must bring our attention to realize the efforts and initiatives we have missed to push the path of peace and reconciliation that should indeed emerge from the Arab nation. We should therefore assist those brotherly states and peoples experiencing economic, political, or security difficulties while upholding the principles of good neighborliness and non-interference in the internal affairs of all states while respecting their sovereignty, independence, and territorial integrity.
On his part, the Secretary General of the Arab League, Ahmed Abul Ghaid, stressed that the Algerian Declaration of Palestinian Reconciliation represents an important step in the right path, hoping that the Algiers summit will be a station for the actual embodiment of agreement.
لا شك أن توقيع اتفاق المصالحة الفلسطينية بالجزائر مؤخرا.
There is no doubt that the recent signing of the Palestinian Reconciliation Agreement in Algeria represents a step on the right path, and we all look forward to a practical interpretation of this agreement and a commitment from the Palestinian factions to implement its provisions. Over the course of a decade, I witnessed many agreements signed and forgotten. I hope this agreement will be implemented. Finally, the Arab League is still in need of all your support. Whether it is by fulfilling contributions according to the quota set for countries, or by actively engaging in its work in all fields and aspects of activity, so that it continues to fulfill its mission. And I say with all sincerity, this regional organization has the capabilities and expertise that enables it to play broader and more influential roles within the framework of the joint Arab action in its various fields.
Abu al-Ghait added that the Ministerial Council of Foreign Ministers of a great importance in achieving the required consensus through the Arab Summit, praising Algeria's efforts that are working sincerely to make the summit a success.
نحرص جميعا كل الحرص على القمة ودورية انعقادها ونعتبر احتضان الجزائر لهذه القمة.
We are all making sure of the smooth running of the summit's convention, and we consider Algeria's hosting of this 31st summit a resumption of what was interrupted, knowing that the joint Arab action has continued its activities in its usual path in difficult circumstances during the past years, in which we are all aware of. Indeed, this Honorable Council succeeded, the Ministerial Council of Foreign Ministers, in maintaining Arab action mechanisms and in preserving the seriousness of the Arab decisions issued by the Council, which constitute the political framework in which we follow and expresses the collective positions that we adopt and defend in international forums.
The Arab Summit in Algeria reached the stage of resolution in front of major files, with the start of preparatory meeting of the Council League at the level of Minister for Foreign Affairs. Many issues have been discussed in the regional and global dimensions. The meeting aims to find political and economic mechanisms for achieving stability in the Arab states. With the approaching of the Arab States League Summit and the start of the works of the League's councils at the ministerial level, optimism, signs of successful summit are high within the Arab leaders. Zara Furjani.
Signs of a successful 31st session of Arab States League Summit are high within the Arab leaders. This demonstrates Algeria's commitment to achieve reunification of the Arab states, with hopes of meeting the values of cooperation and solidarity in the face of challenges and difficulties. Foreign affairs ministers and representatives of various Arab countries also confirmed the Algerian commitment for the success of this session.
I'm really happy to be here, and I hope this summit will produce good results. I'm very optimistic that there will be very useful results. In fact, this has been on hold for years, so I'm expecting good results.
The Arab foreign ministers flocked to Algeria bearing a lot of hope and optimism. They believe in Algeria's ability to achieve reunification of Arab ranks.
The indicators of the success at the Arab Summit are clear. An agreement was reached on several issues after discussions and dialogues. I believe that this summit will be consensual and will reach positive results.
Algeria holds this summit. We believe that it'll be a successful one by all standards. We hope that the outcomes of this summit are positive results for the Arabs as a whole. We wish success to our people in Algeria, and we thank them for their hospitality.
Algeria is seen as the perfect host for the reunification summit. Leaders believe this session is on the right path to reach territorial integrity of the Arab countries, which affirm their full readiness to rise to the challenge and contribute to the success.
Palestinian Foreign Minister Riyad al-Maliki said that Algeria's effort in support of the Palestinian cause is an important part of the Arab States Summit. work by finding consensus on mechanism for implementing the Algiers Declaration on Palestinian Reconciliation.
نعتقد بأن التوافق العربي هو توافق صحيح.
We believe the Arab agreement is a serious and right agreement, and the effort made by Algeria will result in a positive Arab resonance in all levels. And what has been agreed upon here in Algeria weeks ago will find great interest for all Arab countries in terms of reading a plan for how to start working collectively under Algeria's leadership, and how to translate those agreed upon resolutions into ending the division and achieving Palestinian reconciliation that we all want.
The Sahrawi Republic is participating in the emergency meeting of the African Commission on Intelligence and Security in Africa, which is hosted by the Guinean capital, Malabo, from the 27th to the 30th of this month. The Sahrawi Republic was represented in this meeting by Sidi Wakel, the National Director of Security, where the meeting discusses the security challenges facing the African continent. In Burkina Faso, hundreds of people demonstrated on Friday in the capital, Ouagadougou, against the French presence in the country, raising slogans calling for the end of the French military presence, as the same scenario has been taking place in most of Sahel countries against the French military presence. Security personnel and witnesses reported that at least 9 people, including children, were killed on Saturday in 2 car bombings that were directed at Somalia's Ministry of Education in the country's capital, Mogadishu. Algeria strongly condemned the terrorist attack in the Somalia capital throughout a statement from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and National Community abroad. 48 hours before the Lebanese president leaves his position, the country is facing a presidential vacancy with the inability to elect a new president and a caretaker government. Warnings that his country will slip into constitutional chaos on the edge of an unprecedented situation, and after 4 electoral sessions that did not result in the election of a president in light of the split in parliament after the elections last May. The political blocs were unable to reach a consensus on candidate to succeed Michel Aoun. To a different matter now, Russian Defense Ministry has accused the UK Navy of taking part in planning and training of Ukrainian forces to operate in the last terrorist acts of Kiev in the next part of Crimea. The Russian Defense Ministry also stated that its forces have repelled Ukrainian attack on Kherson region as well as Sevastopol. Usama Ayadi.
The Russian army announced on Saturday that it repelled a massive drone attack on its fleet in Sevastopol Bay in Crimea, which it blamed on Ukraine and Great Britain, and which damaged the ship. Russian Defense Ministry spokesperson Igor Konashenkov also stated that British specialists located in the city of Ochakiv planned and assisted the provisioning and executing of what he called terrorist act on the Nord Stream 1 and Nord Stream 2 gas pipelines in the Baltic Sea in September.
The preparation of this terrorist act and the training of the military personnel of the Ukrainian 73rd Special Center for Maritime Operations were carried out under the guidance of British specialists located in the city of Ochakiv, Mykolaiv region of Ukraine. According to available information, a representative of this unit of the British Navy took part in the planning, backup and carrying out of the terrorist attack in the Baltic Sea on September 26th of this year to blow up the Nord Stream 1 and Nord Stream 2 gas pipelines.
Crimea serves as the headquarters of the Russian fleet and as a logistics rear base for the Russian military operation in Ukraine. However, military and civilian installations have been targeted there several times in the recent months. According to Moscow, the attack involved 9 unarmed aerial vehicles and 7 autonomous maritime drones and targeted ships that are helping to secure convoys responsible for exporting Ukrainian grain under an agreement concluded under the guidance of the UN and Turkey.
Today at 4:20 a.m., the Kiev regime carried out terrorist attack on ships of the Black Sea Fleet and civilian ships that were on the outer and inner Rostev's protected body of water of the Sevastopol base. 9 unnamed aerial vehicles and 7 autonomous maritime drones were involved in the attack.
In the same context, pro-Russian separatists fighting alongside Moscow have announced a new prisoner swap with Kyiv, involving 50 people on each side. On the southern front, artillery battles were seen in the village of Kobzarsky, in the last town on the Ukrainian side before the line of contact with the Russians.
Still with the story of Ukraine and Russia ahead of the November termination 19 of the UN-backed Black Sea Grain Initiative, which allows Ukrainian Black Sea grain exports. Russia has repeatedly said that there are serious problems with it. Western officials said that any Ukrainian exports help ease the food crisis. Russia will officially notify UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres shortly of its suspension of the Ukrainian Black Sea grain deal, which may lead to a more critical stage of world food security. New British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak is considering freezing the country's foreign aid budget for an additional 2 years. Britain's spending on foreign aid is set at 0.5% of national income. The government had cut its foreign aid spending 2 years ago as the country faced a huge hit to public finances due to the coronavirus pandemic. Brazilians will choose on Sunday between keeping far-right Bolsonaro or returning to the leftist government by Da Silva, who previously held office from 2003 to 2010. Sofiane Kanturi.
The current Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro and his rival Lula Inácio da Silva faced off in a final debate before their runoff elections on Sunday. The debate focused mainly on post-pandemic economic hardship. During the debate, da Silva pledged again to boost spending on the poor, though he did not outline a clear plan on how he would achieve that. He also criticized Bolsonaro's government, saying that it hasn't yet provided an increase to the minimum wage above inflation.
The only thing you did was to deny the vaccine at the right moment and allow more than 300,000 people to die needlessly in this country, but one day you will pay for that.
Bolsonaro responded to Lula's claims by emphasizing that his government delivered aid to people in the hardest time that Brazil spent, and claimed that da Silva's return to power would usher in communism, legalized drugs and abortion.
The world is scared in a positive way. With the economic performance of Brazil, we're going to grow more than China. We have an inflation lower than Europe and the United States. And if we compare to other countries in the South America with ideologies exactly like Lula, for sure it helps the undecided people to come to our side.
However, in the previous day, supporters of Brazilian presidential candidate Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva braved the pouring rain on Friday to support and listen to his allies speak, in response to Bolsonaro's rallies in Rio de Janeiro 2 days ahead of his runoff against incumbent President Jair Bolsonaro.
Thousands of Colombians demonstrated against President Gustavo Petro's proposed tax reform on Saturday in the nation's capital, Bogota. People marched under the banner of the Great National March to protest the Petro reforms. They disapprove while carrying the Colombian flag around their shoulders and football teams' uniforms.
We want the president to think again about his economic growth plan. With no economic growth in the country, we will be harmed on the economic side. We will have to leave the country and spread throughout the world.
More international news. Let's follow this roundup by Islam Seed.
At least 146 people were killed and 150 injured in a stampede after a large number of people fell down in a narrow alley during the Halloween events on Saturday night. The incident took place in the South Korean capital, Seoul. An image of King Charles III for future coins was revealed on Friday by the Royal Mint after the King's approval. The production of the first 50 pence coins is expected to enter circulation by December 2022. Ritic Railways announced on Saturday that it had broken the world record for the length of a passenger train. The train, which is nearly 2,000 meters long and consisting of 100 wagons, entered an event marking the 175th anniversary of the Swiss railway system. Thousands of people, mostly dressed Zulu traditional outfits, gathered on Saturday to witness the first Zulu coronation since 1971. Mr. Zulu Kazwelithini was officially recognized by the South African government as the AmaZulu King. The recognition puts an end to a lengthy legal wrangling that stalled his succession to the throne. Amid Ebola outbreak, Rwandan authorities have set up a prevention stand for the Ebola virus on its border with Uganda. People who cross the borders are invited to measure their temperature, and if they have symptoms, they are put in a quarantined room before being taken to a hospital. A tropical storm made landfall in the Philippines on Saturday, causing floods and landslides in southern provinces and eastern coast. According to local officials, 72 people died and 33 were injured, while 14 others are still missing. Heavy rain battered Venezuela on Friday, unleashed landslides and flooded the streets in residential areas. In recent weeks, at least 45 people died due to mudslides that buried houses and businesses.
And to this end, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being with us. For more updates, you can follow our social media platform as well as the L24 official website. For now, good night.